Welcome back to the Olga S. Pérez Show. I'm your host, Olga. How you doing? What's up? This is my first time watching this interview. I've been waiting. I did not even see any clips of anybody's commentary, nothing. Obviously, it was trending right away on X when it came out. I think it was last week, right? And I wanted to do it last week. Couldn't do it. Doing it today, baby. I'm doing it today. So please consider make a donation, support my work, super chat. I'll read your chats throughout the live stream as I pause. Because I know even this kind of stuff, there's copyright. So I got to interrupt. But I'm really curious to see. Because if you know me, you know how I feel about Tucker. I think all these people are compromised. I don't trust any of them. But I am curious to see what Russell Brand had to say. Specifically about his smear campaign. And I'm going to give you my reaction on how I really feel, mostly through intuition. I'm sure I'll use some of my intellect here and there. But we're going to have fun with this. I mean, I hope so. Anyway, so share this content. Sharing is caring. Tag me on social media if you're sharing it over there. I am live right now on Rumble, on X, and the BoobTube. What's up? And let me see. Give me a second. I don't know why I'm like losing my flow here. But I'm going to get right into it. And thank you guys for voting and helping me decide what I'm going to be talking about today. Doesn't mean that the other ones that didn't win the vote, as far as the topic for this live stream today, doesn't mean I'm not going to get into those topics. We'll see. We'll see. You guys will let me know. But if you're new to my channel, awesome to have you. And if you've been here before, welcome back, my love. And you should consider a lot to join me and support my work on Locals, where it's totally raw, real, behind the scenes, you name it. You never know what you're going to get at Locals, and we can talk more personal over there, okay? Uncensored, completely uncensored. And it's a coffee a month. Come on. You can follow me. I think you don't have to become a member, but become a member. Of course, become a member. And I thank you guys. Thank you for all your comments, your likes. Your comments are my fuel. Keep them coming. I do read them and I will respond. Let's see. I hope. I just want to make sure everything's working over on Rumble. See, it's funny. It's like loading. Here we go. All right, so it looks like we're on. I'm on. It's on. Who's with me already? It's so awesome when you guys are with me live, okay? It's part of the experience. Hey, Nijo. Rocco. Hello, OMG. AC Nelson. Official channel. Hello. Hola, Miss Olga. Hello, Mr. Nelson. Great to see you. Really great to see you guys. Okay, let's see. Listen, we got to get people to be aware that this is not like any other commentary, right? This is reaction commentary, but coming from someone, well, since some of you know, but for those who are new, let's get the party started. Hi, I'm Olga S. Pérez, coming at you live, unleashing the power of perspective, one reaction at a time. I've been a life strategist for over 20 years, and I'm here to share my insights on trending topics, current news, and music videos that we all want to talk about with love and humor. Good to see you too. Okay, so here we go. I'm ready. I got it all queued up. Here we go. Let's see. Because I want to see. It's almost like I feel like I have a truth detector. So let's see. Because it's not just that if I think these people are compromised. I mean, these people already had leverage. They've been on major networks, right? Russell Brand, actor, comedian, this and that, right? And, regardless of their past, in specific Russell Brand. Regardless, I know you can change. You might not change your character, but you can definitely change your behavior. I do believe that. And I'm just not 100% convinced that Russell can just give up, I don't know, you can say maybe certain pacts he's made in his past. Just saying. All right, so here we go. I'm so glad that you guys are watching this with me. Oh, and by the way, if there's any noise in the background, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but there's construction going on here. And if you follow me on Locals, you know what's going on here. So I apologize ahead of time for if you guys can hear it at all. If it gets really bad, then I might have to end this stream and do a part 2. We'll see. You guys let me know. Here we go.
In September, media outlets around the world, almost all of them here in the West and the English-speaking world, ran headlines that shocked a lot of readers and viewers. Russell Brand, the movie star, the comedian, now the podcaster, was a sex criminal, a bad man, a sex criminal. Now, none of the outlets ran the names of the accusers who had been sexually abused by Russell Brand. That was conspicuously absent.
Right.
But the judgment was overwhelming.
How convenient, right?
This is a very bad man, and he needs to be taken out of public view for the sake of the rest of us. What was interesting about this is that, in fact, it was the final scene in a long movie that had been playing out for the preceding couple of years outside of public view. This was an attempt to make Russell Brand shut up. Russell Brand has views that diverge from those of most Western governments on big issues, not small things, big issues, questions of economic policy and war and peace. And they decided we have to make this man be quiet. Why Russell Brand? Well, because in contrast to a lot of us who give our opinions for a living, Russell Brand had the capacity to win people over from the other side. He hadn't spent a life identified with the far right, just the opposite. Russell Brand was a man of the left, and to most people, a cultural figure. Everyone knows who Russell Brand is. And so he had the power.
I would say that from what I've watched from Russell, to say that he was from the left, I think he was like a Democrat in the sense that he believed in democracy. I'm not sure I would say the left. And if so, was it because he was in Hollywood?
Or the capacity to persuade. And that was the threat. So we thought it'd be...
There you go. Of course that's the threat.
Interesting to go through in some detail what happened to Russell Brand. None of this has ever been aired before.
Right, which is why I wanted to watch this interview.
Censorship campaign against him began with governments, not private organizations, but governments, their intel services and their policymakers. And as we said, it played out outside public view. And we thought it would be very interesting and important for people to know what exactly happened. And so to find out, we are now joined by Russell Brand himself, and we're grateful to be. Russell Brand, thank you so much.
Okay, welcome, Russell Brand. Welcome.
So I didn't know any, I just want to say I didn't know any of this, and I experienced you because I didn't know you as a viewer, and I remember thinking, boy, that is one of the most articulate critiques of the brand new war in Ukraine I had ever seen. I saw one of your videos on the war in Ukraine, and this was in the winter of...
I don't really follow Russell Brand. I just can't follow him for some reason. This is his energy that is just, I just can't keep up. The accent, there's a few things. Yeah, maybe it's just not my style, my cup of tea, whatever. You know how, some people might love me and other people might be, feel that I'm extremely annoying. That's normal. But, hold on.
2022, 2 years ago. And you were making kind of a remarkable case, not against the Ukrainian people and certainly not in favor of Russia, but that there might be real...
Because remember, I've talked about Russell Brand before. We've done some reactions to some of the content in the past. You can look it up in my channel. But I know that, he had this podcast and he started a completely new platform. I think it's called Lumineer, something like that. Again, curious about the name. But of course, here's a guy who's all about spirituality and, and what is reality and questioning reality. Totally cool stuff, right? But it didn't work that well for him. And then as soon as he started talking about politics, hence is the Russell Brand that we know now, that's where he got all his followers, like immediately. So that raises suspicion, because if you're all about spirituality and enlightening people and doing meditations, and then all of a sudden you're just talking about the news, which is great, because if you have that perspective, like I have a different perspective, I think we need more podcasters to give a different perspective, because most of them are shills, grifters, and they repeat each other, right? And then the viewers, the audience, also repeats everything they say. It's like a mockingbird effect. Anyway.
Implications for the West if we get involved in a war that is not our own. And you I thought, said it so well. What I missed, and I'm now seeing, is that in March of 2022, you were denounced by an organization connected directly to the U.S. government as an agent of Chinese propaganda for your views on Ukraine. So let me just ask you your experience of this. Did you know that you were being attacked as a Chinese propagandist for your views on Ukraine?
I actually didn't, and still at this point struggle to see entirely what the connections are between those two issues, and how I would develop and cultivate a strong affinity with China. I've never been to China. I don't purport to understand China. Certainly don't advocate for Chinese policy. I've just got a relatively superficial dilettante knowledge of geopolitical matters in the South Asian seas. It's not something that I would like to tie my colours to the mast for, or be willing to be publicly shamed, attacked, and even jailed for.
So it happened, though.
Yeah.
And a lot happens on the internet that we miss. But these, in my reading of it, and we haven't, by the way, talked about this off air, but my reading of it is that these were the early seeds of a very deceptive plant that flowered more than a year later in September, when you were accused of these crimes and demonetized and censored as a result of that. But looking back, so you were accused by a group called Coda Story. It published a story on its anti-disinformation newsletter. Now,
how many of you guys have known when he was being attacked that was the company behind it? How many? Let me know in the comments.
The story is connected to the UK government, but it's also connected to the CIA. How does it...
See, isn't that funny? How does the CIA come into this? Meaning, why do I feel like Russell has something to do with this? Just bear with me.
Make you feel to know that you were in the crosshairs of two of the most powerful governments in the world and their intel agencies?
It seems to me ridiculously grandiose to even imagine that I would stir and arouse the interests of such powerful agencies and groups, that the British government, if...
Oh, come on, Russell. No way. Oh, I'm so shocked that they would be interested in me. Oh, shut up. See, lie number one. Stop.
Indirectly would spend considerable sums on observing and de-amplifying content, that true information...
You knew this was coming, Russell. You saw it's been happening to all kinds of people, from, small influencers to bigger influencers, people like you. Come on.
Shared through our platforms in the period of the pandemic.
See, with all their power and influence, why aren't they changing big tech? Right? We just had a hearing. Again, another one. Another show, guys. All show. Hate to disappoint you, but as much as you can listen to those snippets of that Senate, hearing of the CEOs testifying about social media and the effects that it does for, child, what? Oh, no. They're all sellouts.
Was censored, was cited as high risk, that companies like Moderna had spent considerable revenue tracking our content and again de-amplifying it, that Dame Caroline Dinenage, whose husband is a psyops expert that worked abroad in terrorism before deploying those methods and techniques, and to some degree those teams, to observe what they called disinformation and misinformation in the UK. I recognise that the new emergent media spaces present a lot of possibilities, even with your kind compliments about our reporting on the Ukraine. All we've essentially done is listen to brilliant academics talking about the history of NATO and the coup in 2014 in Ukraine, and Putin's explicit declaration that he would prefer, let's put it mildly, that Ukraine were not invited into NATO, that some of the regional disputes, how they're escalating tensions. This is information that, because of independent media, is available, and perhaps the function that we, our media organisation, have fulfilled is been to collate that information and convey it directly in an accessible manner to give people an alternative perspective to the homogenized mainstream opinion, which amounts to, I've learned over the last few years, the amplification and normalization of the agenda of the powerful, that no opinions can be allowed into that space. And I'm astonished by how jealously it is guarded.
Oh, come on. See? Come on. Did anybody, again, this is my first time watching this, whether you watched the whole thing already or you've seen some clips about it. Stop. See, to me, this is acting. I'm astonished. No, you're not.
There are points in my life where my personal self-regard would have loved the idea that I would be considered important enough to attack on this scale, to spend this amount of revenue and resources.
Oh my God. I love the humility act, Russell, but no way, dude. You've been in the limelight for a long time. You've been in Hollywood. Come on.
On, but I'm now seeing that independent media itself is an extraordinary threat. The independent media inevitably leads to independent politics and independent thought, and we appear to be at some precipitous moment of radical transition. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if anybody could be sure of where this is all heading, what the exact teleology is, but it seems to be to do with mass centralization, globalization.
Mind you, while he's talking about this, I'm getting this vision of the fact that, now the legacy media is so dead that these new leaders like Russell, Tucker, on media, on information, they're like really still doing the same points in the same art form as legacy media because people are used to that. So to me, it's like, you guys know that the legacy media has been dying. You take it and go, okay, I'm going to jump on this boat. No problem. That's all good. But they're still following the same thing. Like, for example, do you think that Russell didn't know what they were going to talk about in the questions that were coming to him? I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening on these platforms that are exactly the same way. Remember what I'm saying here.
Significant attempts to control the information space that are so rigorously adhered to and protected that even what you might imagine to be a marginal voice is considered a significant enough threat to warrant coordinated media attacks, expenditure on peculiar, clandestine, non-government organizations and think tanks that take their money from the military-industrial complex, from the legacy media, who, by the way, when they're critiquing independent media, they got skin in the game. They're not able to independently assess your work or my work or the medical opinions of Joe Rogan. They have a vested interest in destroying those organizations.
Right. Who doesn't know that, right? Who doesn't know that? Hello? That company with the jab starts with a P. Well, just one of them, right? Where we got that football player who's made more money off his gig with the P people, right? Than he does in football. What's his name? Kelsey? What's his name? You know how I am with names.
In the
the Taylor Swift dude.
last few years, I've learned about the Trusted News Initiative, which has extraordinary connections again to Big Pharma and sets of interest around the reporting on war.
But see, that's a very general statement. They have extraordinary connections. When he could just say who they are. Who are these connections? But see, they're still playing it safe. Why? They're independent. Rumble just made a contract with Russell, right, a few months ago. Now Tucker's got in with X and Elon.
Have decided and determined that they are no longer competing with one another. You in particular come from a journalistic background where it would have been commonplace for the great institutions of American media to compete with one another for scoops. The New York Times versus the... Those days are gone. It explicitly states on the Trusted News Initiative website, we are no longer in competition with one another. We have to curtail and stamp out. I think it even uses the word choke independent media. And it's clear that there are now sets of globalist organizations.
He's right. Those are those words. Choke. Take a bite of that. So when you guys don't support people like me, give me a tip like you would anyone that gives you a service, right? Same shit. That's how they're choking me. And I'm a little person over here, just getting started, right? Without you, I definitely won't sell myself out. We'll talk about this another time. I had some sponsorship offers, but I keep saying no if they're not aligned with my truth or their product or the services aren't really for the good and betterment of people, I don't go there. And I take the hit financially. Just saying.
Organizations funded by government, but also corporations that are making deliberate, profound attempts to shut down any dissent in an astonishingly aggressive way. And to be sort of caught up in it is terrifying on one level, absolutely terrifying, particularly due to the nature of allegations that I faced, but also
right. I can see the terrifying part of, going to jail for accusations of crimes. Got it.
revealing, more importantly, it's revealing about the way that I believe the world, and in particular this space, will be affected, and the way these events will continue to unfold in the coming years.
What I love about your critique is that you're coming to all of this pretty cold, since you had a midlife career change. You're doing something very different from what you did 15 years ago. And I'm wondering if your assumptions haven't been completely blown up. You're a British citizen, lived in the country most of your life. Mm-hmm. How strange is it to know that your tax dollars are being used against you by your government, which they are? And how bewildering is it to find that the open contest of ideas that we were promised...
Is it because it's Tucker saying this? Is it just because he's saying it? Because think about, like, how crazy is that the government's using your tax money to get... Like, it's not that dramatic, Tucker. We all are aware. We're all there.
...just here in the West, may the best idea win, is a sham.
Yes, it's well, I suppose I went into the entertainment industry really with the giddy trajectory that propels a lot of people into those spaces, believing that there might be some fulfillment, and certainly there would be excitement. And when I was a denizen of that world, I was fostered and adored and celebrated and facilitated and lived the kind of lifestyle which I think is kind of...
Because literally... you need to do good PR to continue your status and get more roles and get more jobs. And then hence where everyone has turned to this point. It's been that way for decades now, where these celebrities are idols, that people worship and trust. Unbelievable. How can anybody trust people that fake for a living? Like act, right? Pretend. Unbelievable.
Kind of common for people in that area, for single people, in my case, drug and alcohol free, but certainly with an appetite for a promiscuous lifestyle. When I was part of it, I found it empty and unfulfilling, of course, as it would be, as anyone who's had those kind of experiences ultimately realizes. When I departed it, as a result really of various spiritual crises or commercial failures or a combination of those events, I really felt like a coming home to the type of values that I grew up with. I grew up in a normal blue-collar town, Grays, kind of like a place that's like New Jersey, I guess, a kind of suburban, outside of the city, normal people, good values kind of place. And what I feel like happened is, like, well, since I've had a family, since, I've got a young son, I've got a couple of daughters, is I feel like that I was able to deploy the skills learned through working in entertainment as a man in recovery in a new space. And what simply began with myself and my partners is tell the truth about things you care about. Kind of over time, it began to, I suppose Glenn Greenwald the other day, and he goes, you shouldn't be surprised that if you attack the most powerful interests in the world, the deep state, powerful corporations, the machinery of war, that you yourself are the recipient of attacks.
What do you mean? Why are they acting so shocked? Are you kidding me? Let me rewind that again.
Be surprised that if you attack the most powerful interests in the world, the deep state, powerful corporations...
Surprised? What? I mean, come on. These people with more, supposedly some special brain cells here, they're so smart? Wait, why would you say that?
Machinery of war, that you yourself are the recipient of attacks. Why is that surprising to you?
Exactly, Tucker, laugh. Exactly. Funny, right?
I know, but because sometimes it does feel speculative, doesn't it? You're talking about these really powerful organizations and the way that it's funded and the way that it crosses over and their malfeasant, underhanded, insidious activity. And then as it starts to become more popular, as more and more people realize that it's actually true, as more and more people become willing to take back control in their own lives, as more and more people refuse to consent to being treated in this sort of infantile way, having their autonomy and personal and mental and spiritual freedom undermined, their connection to their land undermined, their connection to nature devoided, you start to realize that you're actually operating in quite a powerful territory. But while power is very serious and it has to work very hard to maintain its grip, so these organizations, it's
True.
surprised me to find that the British government, through the Department of Culture and Media and Sport, the very people that sponsored the new, rather draconian...
I will say, there is a tone in his voice, in Russell Brand's voice, that those accusations really got to him. Where I don't believe that he was part of that agreement, you know what I'm saying, for show, psyop, or anything like that. I'm picking up the fact that he's definitely been taken back, knowing and the world he lives in, being very aware of the world he lives in. And I like that he's not trying to act like a victim so far, but I can feel that when it got to his family, when it was going to affect his family, like it obviously did, I can feel that this has definitely deeply affected him because of his family.
An online safety bill personally contacted the height of these allegations and attacks on me, contacted social media platforms and asked if I would be demonetized. But they're the body that regulates them. They have the ability to find those organizations. They're the very person who is sponsoring the online security bill.
Pause for a second, just to
of course.
I understand what you're saying. So these accusations appeared. There were, I don't know if this has changed, but at the time there were no names attached at all. You were accused anonymously of committing crimes. And then your own government, which you pay for,
yes,
reached out without telling you to online service providers and media organizations and said, please kick him off and censor him and take his money away. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's
before
right.
any kind of trial, before any...
Hello, I mean, witch hunts has been happening for centuries. I mean, when the powerful are, losing control, that's what they do. I just don't understand why they're acting so surprised.
Proof that you were guilty.
Unless it's just part of the act for entertainment purposes.
Before any names were attached.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah, and it's the same people that are sponsoring online safety bills, which amount to facilitating further censorship.
But what a betrayal by your own government.
Well, it's astonishing if you regard your government
How many examples do we already have of the government betraying the people?
In a position of service rather than a position
Is he making these comments because he wants to fire people up or to make people connect and feel like he feels us? Meanwhile, these two do not live like most of us.
Of domination and control. But what's become apparent in recent years is what the nature of our relationship with government is, that they are there to rule and control and dominate. And whilst they may now do it with an aesthetic of care and with the language of inclusivity, I believe the threat of authoritarianism is far, far greater from those that use the language of liberalism than these emergent, somewhat nationalistically oriented populist movements present, because they are leveraging that power now. They're interested in censorship. They're militarizing the police force. They're introducing protest laws. They're introducing censorship laws. Through their actions, we can observe them. Through their fruits, can we know them? We can see what they... And if you try to dissent, if you try to oppose, even what I consider to be a relatively marginal scale, then the consequences are severe and immediate and robust and terrifying.
I think what makes your specific case so compelling is that if they could do it to you, a person who had the admiration of a lot of people who weren't interested in politics and was pretty famous and had some means, etc., then the average person stands no chance against these forces. So with that, if you don't mind, can we get specific about a couple of things that you mentioned? The first is Moderna, which is a drug company. It's part of Big Pharma. Tell us how you intersected with pharma and with Moderna and what you think they did to you.
During the pandemic period, we reported continually about...
And now here I'm getting a little concerned because the bots and whatnot, the trolls, and you talk about the jab and those companies. But like I said, I haven't watched this and this is live. Like, in a way, I wish they did have some timestamps so I could choose my my points.
Some of the clinical trials that Moderna conducted and whether or not they ought be deemed sufficiently rigorous to warrant the level of measures that were being implemented, if not entirely mandated. We talked about a government official called Jonathan Van Tam, who was the public face of the government, saying, you know, we should be taking vaccines, recommending that the measures escalate. Jonathan Van Tam subsequently took a position at Moderna. We reported on that. People within the FDA took positions at Moderna. We reported on that. We accurately reported that both Pfizer and Moderna were making $1,000 like a second or a minute, just like we reported a lot. We reported accurately and thoroughly about the degree to which Big Pharma were profiting from a situation.
I really hope that he's going to talk more about the smear campaign. If you guys already seen this, let me know.
In which Albert Bourla explicitly said it would be inhumane to profit from this global crisis. This meant that we were tracked by agencies employed by Moderna. They had like us on a high-risk category. This is the reporting of Li Fang on his Substack. Not just me, Jay Bhattacharya, Michael Schellenberger, Alex Berenson, a number of what you might call anti-pandemic measures voices or strong critics of the way that the pandemic unfolded were under observation by agencies that were either funded by Big Pharma, sometimes the government. And in a sense, what I've started to realize, Tucker, is this cartilage between the state and the corporate world is often provided by these unusual organizations that are claiming to be observing disinformation or monitoring, but they're actually crushing dissent. That's what they're doing in practice. Dissenting voices are being aggressively crushed by almost any means necessary. That media organizations
True.
are collaborated in a way that is unprecedented in order to shut down dissenting voices. And it appears to me that this is part of something. I don't know that we've seen anything like this before.
So what you're saying is that these organizations, which purport to be independent, are not actually independent from government. They merely give government, the politicians and the intel agencies especially, some plausible deniability, some distance from what they're doing. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that, Tucker, that seems to be the function. There's a group called Logically, and Logically have received millions of pounds of taxpayer money. And what they do is observe dissenting voices around, in particular, COVID and pandemic.
Now, that's some good info to know, right? That there literally are groups that are watching and looking. Imagine living a life that's your existence, that's your job. I'm pretty sure, I'm 100% positive, they are not very happy people.
Measures, but they are now working in the United States, apparently in order to regard misinformation around election campaigning. It seems that this group received government money in order to control online spaces.
So if you're worried about the security,
government money, our money. Isn't that amazing? And we just keep going. But I know things are going to change the minute we start getting hungry. That's how all revolutions start.
of electronic voting machines or absentee ballots, who are denounced by these people and censored by them.
That's precisely how it works. And of course, they employ former FBI agents, CIA agents. In a way, I suppose, what happened during the pandemic period, because of like the Twitter files, for example, we started to learn the degree to which the deep state were involved in in social media companies, the degree to which they were censoring and shutting down information that we now know to be true, which it was, of course, you'll be aware that Mark Zuckerberg said we did censor true information. The category, in fact, of malinformation is information that's true, but harmful to the agenda of the powerful. Well, it seems like groups like Logically,
like Zuckerberg and his fake ass apology. And Holly, I had more respect for him, but seriously, again, the act. It's like, I'm going to act like I'm doing my job. I know I'm getting off topic, but again,
public good project are specifically empowered to control, censor, de-amplify information that is harmful to that agenda.
This seems totalitarian.
Yeah.
To control what people are allowed to think is, I think that's the definition of it.
What I've started to, I suppose.
Is it like, do you see the art there? Do you see the art of, it seems that it's totalitarian. It seems, instead of just saying something The way I would say it, the way you and I would say it, would be like, this is totally, they're being totalitarian, totalitarianistic. Anyway, my English is my third language.
That's what...
You get my point.
In essence, what I've started to feel and report on consistently, as you noted at the beginning of this, I'm not someone who's affiliated organically with conservatism or what you might regard as right-wing politics, although I, of course, recognize the legitimacy of a whole variety of political views and the right of people to hold different views from one another. But it seems to me that authoritarianism now is being deliberately veiled in the insidious language of care, concern, safety, and convenience. It seems to me that we're in a time where we lurch from one crisis to another.
See, again with this. It seems. What do you mean it seems? Why can't he just say it's clearly, how they're manipulating their words, acting like they care when they don't? Like, why is it seems? I mean, why?
In a time where we lurch from one crisis to another, that the crisis is always used to legitimize certain solutions, and a docile...
We know the whole create chaos out of order. Everybody knows that. And if you don't, it makes sense, right? If I say it to you, you notice they create this chaos, and then they're like, oh, we have a solution for it. I'm talking basic here. Layman's terms. We don't need to act all intellectual and so interesting and special. Let's get to the point, people.
Or terrified public.
You know me. I don't just say hi, I say how you doing.
Is willing to participate in this proposed solutions that usually involve giving up their freedom. We are continually being invited to give up our freedom in exchange for safety or convenience. And it seems that this process is radically escalating. And
it's been that way since the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican, the Pope, centuries.
I feel that this is something that we will see yet more of in the coming year. I feel like, you've spoken publicly about this, that we're potentially on the precipice of serious, and to use your term, a hot war with Russia. And like that's being reported on in my country right now. It's like we're being prepped, groomed, primed for...
Again, did he say seems again? Hold on.
That's being reported on in my country right now. It's like we're being prepped.
It's like we're being prepped. Dude, why can't they say we're being prepped? Why can't they say that? Call a spade a spade. Because they're acting like, oh, we're going to do our thing. Well, I got X to back me up. I got Rumble to back me up, right? Screw these people. We're going on our own. Tucker Carlson network. What is this?
Groomed, primed for war is coming, that we're being kept in a state of constant anxiety in order to induce compliance.
Hello, even back in the 50s in America, right? The 40s and 50s, teaching kids to get underneath their desk in case of a nuclear bomb. Decades, my friend, not like this is all recent. And it seems, that's the word of the day, seems. It seems like it's going to rain. It's raining, bitch.
That the ongoing stoking of cultural tension is to ensure that people don't begin to recognize that actually we have far more in common with one another than we do with these curious sets of establishment interests.
That's a talking point of any peacemaker in history, of wanting to stay together, to support each other, to have community.
That seem to be transcendent of national democracy. To be explicit,
it's not seems to be, it is. Always has been.
I'm talking about organizations like the WHO.
That's the point on censoring you.
WHO, NATO, the WF, and their astonishing influence. Added to that, the types of groups we've discussed already that have been exposed due to Li Fang's reporting, these think tanks and apparently independent organizations who are not independent when you look at where they get their money, big pharma or the government or the military industrial complex, or the kind of people they employ, people from deep state agencies such as the FBI and CIA that have extraordinary affinity with the legacy media and their ongoing agenda.
It's the new empire, the new monarchy, the new aristocracy.
So what I suppose I'm sensing is that totalitarianism now will not bear the inflections or aesthetics of the 20th century.
But Russell, we could cut all this right away if everyone shuts their TV off and doesn't pay for cable, completely ignores legacy media. We can cut all the fear, the manipulation, all of it. How come they don't just sit there and advocate that all day long?
Militarism, guys in medals with moustaches thumping their fists on a desk, will be calmly told by gentlemen with beautifully coiffured hair, or
Gentlemen or celebrities.
elegantly speaking ladies, that just for our safety and just for our convenience, we will be returning
The Muppets for the Muppet Masters? Come on.
to our home.
I don't appreciate this. This is like an insult to my intelligence. We're not children here. Even children are smarter than this.
And anyone that has an audience or a base or an ability to communicate with people to disrupt those types of narratives will be identified and destroyed.
Well,
That's right. That's right. You know I've already been striked, threatened, you name it. And I'm just this big compared to these people. I'll find my way around it, but I'm never going to change. I'm never going to be a shill or a grifter or a sellout. No way. My soul is way too loud. You just can't buy it, man. Can't buy a good soul. You know what I mean? You just can't.
certainly they've
I'm not saying I'm the best or I'm perfect, but my principles stand with truth and goodness and real unity in spite of any obstacle that comes my way.
identified you, and they're trying to destroy you in the most obvious way, in a way that hurts not just you but your family. Was there ever a moment when this happened in September where you thought, it's just kind of not worth it?
Now we're getting to
be
it.
doing
Now
what
that's
I'm
what I
doing.
want. This is what I
is
want to
so
hear.
painful and so threatening to my family that maybe I just bow out and stop talking.
My son was born with a heart condition, and while this was happening,
I didn't know that.
he was undergoing heart surgery. He was 12 weeks old, and I suppose what that did, Tucker, is it revealed that what we were experiencing was a public concoction. I am aware that I've put myself in an extremely vulnerable position by being very, very promiscuous. That is not the kind of conduct that I endorse, and it's certainly not how I would live now.
Yeah, because we all grow up, we all change. Sure. And I'm glad to hear that, right? And we know he's been sober, and that's awesome. I give the guy a lot of kudos for what he's been through and how he's been sticking to wanting to be a better person, like all of us, right? Like most of us do.
That I've been shown a good many things as a result of these events. Didn't
I tell you I was saying it from right away? Right away, before they got to this conversation, what I say, I can tell that he's definitely not just acting humble. There's been some humility. He had some humble pie when it came to his family, how those accusations affected him. Here it is.
Of my family, the value of friendship, the value of being able to speak publicly. And I mentioned my son because throughout it, I was able to maintain what is really important in life. And as you have actually said, we all know how this ends. Attacks like this, a crisis like this, hurtful though it is to be accused of what I consider to be the most appalling crimes, to be accused of this is very, very painful and very hurtful.
And I'm sorry
but
for you.
I am
Russell.
being shown that there are consequences for the rather foolish way that I lived in the past. Although, of course, again, to reiterate, due to the nature of the world,
which totally sucks that they came all these years later. I mean, not just sucks; it's horrible, despicable. They should have came out right away. Okay, this should have happened. The accusations and coming after him should have happened years ago, like when it happened. If he did such atrocities through his promiscuity, if that's what we want to call it.
Of course, I deny any allegations of the kind that have been advanced. But what I've seen is the significance of family, the importance of having values that are transcendent of this, the importance of God. It's very easy to talk about God. I talk about God all the time. But when you need God is when the outside world shows you the the reality of your powerlessness. This can just happen. This can be undone. This can be unspooled at you. And with our boy, and to be in environments, as you understandably and obviously are, when you have a sick child, you're in environments with other people that are in the exact same position.
Yes.
And you are shown what is real, and you are shown what is truthful, and you are invited to look at life very differently. So there are many things that I'm grateful for, as a matter of fact, even though it's not a situation that I welcome, and it's as I say, these are allegations that I object to in the strongest possible terms. The fact that it happened concurrently while I had the opportunity to see the strength and dignity of my wife and the beauty of my little son and the reality of the people that in this world that care for sick children, that perform heart surgery on tiny babies, shows me like, look at all of these realities. How can you live in the ridiculousness of their version of events? I couldn't have been more open and public about the way that I lived when I was
That's true. True.
younger. I was promiscuous. If anyone wanted to have sex with me, I'd have sex with them. I publicly announced it at the beginning of all shows. The idea that that was some sort of a smokescreen for criminal conduct is absurd. But I recognize now that unless you're willing to be a participant in these systems of compliance and distraction, then you pose some kind of evident threat.
A big threat.
Yeah.
Threat. I mean, obviously, the response proves the power of the threat that you posed and still do. But again, just to quickly back to my question, because this was so intense and it happened as your son was born and undergoing the surgery, did it ever cross your mind like I clearly have hit the third rail and I'm out? I've seen that happen a number of times.
Have you?
With people. Yes, I have.
Yeah, I did. I actually myself thought he would at least be like, look, I have money. I don't need this. Honestly.
And yes, with well-known people. But you didn't do that. And here you are, you've clearly thought about it and you've decided that you're going to continue forward. Was that a hard decision?
Do you sometimes think that there is no choice? You have no choice.
Yeah.
Did you ever really have?
Yes, I do feel that way strongly.
There is no choice. We have no choice. Something strange is happening. Something ulterior is moving. Something very important is happening.
I agree to the extent that he's right. It's a beast that's been around for a very long time, and people conditioned to live with that beast. I agree with him, but there is always choice. And you obviously made your choices, Russell, with your channel, moving to Rumble, everything you've been doing, dealing with those attacks and the smear campaign. So let's see.
I'm not purporting to be a person that lacks self-interest. Feel fear. I feel anxiety. I'm a recovering drug addict. You know what that kind of psychological baggage that comes with. But I feel like, what is the purpose here? What are we doing here? I've been shown I've in a way lived a pretty amazing life. I've grew up in a normal background. I got super famous. I experienced all of that giddiness, all of that hedonism, found it empty and hollow, and have been returned to a position where people could actually be connected. I actually feel incredibly optimistic because of things like the ongoing agricultural protests around the world, the trucker protests, the lengths that people...
See, I feel everything that's coming through now is completely honest and heartfelt. And maybe they just needed to warm up. You know what I'm saying? But there is some standoffish situation, which again, if you are being attacked by such a huge machine, I understand. But we need to stop saying things like it seems, right? Being safe. Because I might choose my different words like jab for the other word, right? Just because the bots, I want to make sure that people can find me. So they can hear voices that speak to them the way that we actually speak to each other in the kitchen, right? Or at the bar or at a party. You know what I mean?
Will go to criminalize not just an individual like me, but whole movements will be criminalized as far right, as Nazi, as whatever language is required to delegitimize the rejection of this global authoritarianism is what will be deployed. So when I say, no, I didn't think for a second about doing anything different, I didn't think that. I don't think like that. And it's not out of bravery. It's something beyond that, because I think sometimes I would like to just be with my little daughters and my wife and my son, and
he didn't have to continue to pursue this. What'd I just say?
Just live peacefully. But I don't know, Tucker. It doesn't seem like there's a choice.
There isn't a choice.
Oh, Whoa, that was huge, guys. Do you feel me? I don't think he says that wasn't a choice. Okay, hold on. Maybe I misunderstood.
I don't know, Tucker. It doesn't seem like there's a choice.
There isn't a choice. There isn't a choice. But,
Whoa.
even under those circumstances, some choose cowardice. And again, I've certainly seen that quite a bit.
So there isn't a choice, but some choice. So the cowardness, you didn't choose cowardness, so you did have a choice. Are you guys feeling me on this? Hold on.
No, Tucker. It doesn't seem like there's a choice.
There is.
It doesn't seem like it's a choice. Again, that word seem. They've been doing a lot of seams here. A lot of seams, guys.
Isn't a choice. There isn't a choice. But, even under those circumstances, some choose
There
cowardice.
isn't a choice. Are they kind of even saying? Are they kind of admitting that they're going along with it because there's no choice? Is that what they're saying? Anyone, please raise your hand. Let me know.
And again, I've certainly seen it quite a bit.
Because that's not true. He did make a choice by not being a coward, for example. Tucker made a choice. I'm sure he didn't need to keep working. I'm sure he had plenty of money. I feel like there is more than meets the eye. What they're saying is not the whole story, guys.
Dinage. You mentioned a person called Dinage. Can you explain what you mean by that, who this person is, and what role
who's
she
that?
plays
What's
in
that?
what has happened to you?
When you become accustomed to dealing with American politics, it's huge sums of money. It's powerful agencies that you see depicted in Hollywood movies, characters played by great movie stars. And so when you return your gaze to British politics, you feel like you're dealing with some sort of drudgery, some sort of like like ludicrous heritage porn. Who are all these dames and baronesses and titled individuals? They can't be doing anything serious. Someone called Dame Caroline Dinage, who sounds like a Downton Abbey regular. But actually, though, Dame Caroline Dinage put forward the online safety bill. She's married to a dude that does that does military psyops and now uses those very psyops with the domestic population. She's the person that got in touch with the social media platforms demanding that I be demonetized. They seem to have an extraordinary agenda. Like what the term.
Wait, can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you see what
looked
I mean?
up because
The
I'm not
word
as familiar
seems.
with
Come
your
on.
politics
Did
as I should
anyone
be.
pick up
Yeah.
on
I looked her
that?
up.
The word seems. Again, it seems. It seems. I mean, I guess if you're trying not to be like accusatory. But if somebody's attacking you, is it seems or not? Either, a lion's running after you, it seems like the lion's running after you, or the lion is running after you. Just saying.
Yeah.
I looked up because I'm not as familiar with your politics as I should be.
Yes.
I looked her up, and I think what I was so struck by was that she's a member of the Conservative Party.
Right.
And that suggested to me that there isn't a choice in British politics. There's really just one party.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. It's a uniparty.
But they're not even pretending at this point.
They're not really pretending. Here's a sort of an extraordinary thing that appears to be playing out. In addition to just being casually informed by the legacy media that we're on the precipice of war with Russia and that conscription might be reintroduced in 2024, there was a COVID inquiry in our country, which, by the way, I don't imagine for a second would have happened without independent media reporting, without voices like Jay Bhattacharya,
Yes.
who was shut down, or voices like Michael Schellenberger or Berenson, people that have been shut down and vilified at large and extensively. The COVID inquiry has already cost £145 million. It's being booted off and delayed indefinitely, but at least until after the general election. Like many countries, there's an election in our country this year. But as usual, it's between two neoliberal, what you might term centrist parties that are ultimately dominated. And
Here we go again with the same old story. I believe this. Without a shadow of a doubt, and for a long time. They're not elections, they are selections. Has anybody ever looked at that video of that little girl that figured out she did this school project and figured out that every president except for one is related to each other? Come on, people!
controlled by the same concerns, where an extraordinary focus is spent on the tiny, minute differences. But it's the party nominally of the left is ultimately a centralist neoliberal party.
Yes.
The party nominally of the right is a neoliberal centralist
Hey, how
party.
about you guys smash that like button if you haven't already? Okay? That's a fabulous, wonderful way to help my channel, my work, the algorithm. Let's stay united. That like button keeps us united and uniting more like-minded people, which I believe are most people, good people.
They may quibble about some issues that seem significant.
They're just, if the person feels like they're on any side of this game, they're just clearly trying to fit in. It's not that they have an evil intent. I'm telling you, it's just human nature. There's been so many social experiments at proving that people just do things because of the social pressures.
Significant, and certainly those issues are stoked and amplified, but neither party will say we are going to have a thorough investigation into what went on in that pandemic. That clearly was a lab leak. It looks like it was a bioweapon.
Now he clearly said the word clearly. Now it seems it was clearly
concealed. The people that we entrusted with our response to that pandemic are likely explicitly linked to the leak in the first instance. These kind of stories are never told. There are no legacy media organizations that worked in conjunction with one another to attack me, evidently, and by their own reckoning over a series of years. They are not conducting investigations into Epstein Island. They're not conducting investigations into the nature of the pandemic, how it was funded, where the money went, where it came from, the efficacy of lockdowns. Where are these investigations?
Even the fabled Times of London?
But again, it's good to make all these true points. But again, what's the real question if it's already been answered when we know it's a collusion of maintaining population control? How about I give it to you right there, just like that, in a snap? We don't need a 2-hour, 2-week, 2-month, 2-year debate.
The fabled Times of London.
It's such garbage.
It's astonishing.
So there's nobody and pardon my ignorance. I'm
It's astonishing. Come on.
peering in from the outside, but
You're not that naive.
there really isn't any big media organization in your country. It's even trying to answer the question, what was that? Where'd this virus come from? No one's doing that.
Do you know one of the things that I find
Because they're paid not to.
and terrifying about becoming more educated about this space, Tucker, mostly by listening to more educated voices than my own, is that many of the things a person might instinctively feel, such as you feel like, forgive my ignorance, I don't know much about British politics, but the way that one might intuit, hey, should we not be provoking Russia into a war? Don't they have nuclear weapons? Should we think very carefully about that? How much do we want Ukraine in NATO? And do we even need NATO anyway? The kind of things you might think if you didn't go to university. If you're a regular blue-collar person working for a living, maybe
yes, of course they're thinking that. Of course.
police force or the fire service or as a nurse or as a teacher, something that gives real value to your nation, the kind of things you might think, they're true. Those ideas are true. And in order to prevent you from reaching those ordinary everyday regulations, a machine is put to constant work.
There you go. Did I talk about the machine? Yes, right.
Conquer the space of your attention incessantly and relentlessly, filling your mind with dumb ideas and dumb distractions, making you believe that some sugar or a screen might be
one of the oldest tricks in the book. Come on. The fact that we still live under the Roman Empire. Yes. Did you know that? Yes, sir. And if you think that America is the leader, but it's Rome. It's literally Rome. Look at the Senate. Look when they stand up. Look what's behind. Look at the whole, how the podium is set up. Everything, like basic shit. But if you don't study history and you don't study about the Roman history and the Roman Empire specific and how the Vatican's been involved before and after, okay. Yes, if you don't know, you don't know. But it's the same bread and circus. Distraction, entertainment. Again, wait till we get hungry.
convenient palliative as your children.
We're really just wasting our breath until we get hungry.
Are marched off into an unwinnable forever war. We've been thinking lately before,
Unwinnable forever war. But we've already been, let me rewind that a little bit. But we've been in war after war nonstop.
Like,
Nobody really
do you know,
wins.
like we've been thinking lately before, like with the Houthis and stuff, I'm being deliberately glib, but it's like you go from not ever having heard the word Houthi to being invited to hate the Houthis. Oh, the Houthis, we've got to hate the Houthis now. And you realize, just to move a battleship into that region, think of the taxpayer dollars. And it's not as if the Pentagon are going to be passing an audit anytime soon and telling you where this money is actually going. And $2 trillion was spent on Afghanistan. And if you think of the before and after picture of Afghanistan, oh, well, thank God we spent that $2 trillion because before Afghanistan was, and now Afghanistan is, it's very difficult to fill in those sentences, isn't it? And so what I'm saying is like your sort of easy dismissiveness of what British politics amounts to is probably right. Two corrupt parties pursuing the same ultimate end. Keep people tyrannized, keep people distracted, keep them turned on one another over minor issues that will not ultimately affect their lives or the lives of their children, so that the agenda of the powerful can be pursued without opposition.
War, the economy, public health, food supply.
Yes.
Water supply.
Here we go. Food supply.
Energy, these are the things that matter.
Food supply.
And they're the things that are never discussed openly, ever.
Why can't we have conversations about that? Like, sort of with the global farming protest, it's not accurately reported on. When it is, it's reported on with a particular accent and always with the insinuation that farmers have suddenly moved their attention from the raising of crops to racism now. The farming's more of a hobby. I've got to return to my true love. That's having strong views about varying ethnicity. There's no question that a rise in nationalism is an understandable response to rampant globalism. But the ongoing sort of finger pointing and condemnation of ordinary people I identify with, I recognize it because I grew up in those communities. Professional metropolitan people don't like working class people, don't like ordinary people, and now they've found a way to legitimize their hatred. Oh, they're all disgusting. They're all racist. Look at them in their MAGA hats. Look at them with their white vans and their flags. Look at them with their perspectives, with their unearned views and their belches and their beer. It's a kind of legitimization of a loathing of the people that are most connected to the nation, people that, generally speaking, a couple of generations.
See, I know he's speaking from his heart. I do. I believe that 100%, without a doubt. But at the same time, isn't that typical talking points? Making us all feel that they care about us. And that's why we listen. We want to be heard. And we'd like to have people that speak the way we want to be heard. But where does it stop being a talk and it's more action?
Of a loathing of the people that are most connected to the nation, people that, generally speaking, a couple of generations ago were asked to sacrifice the lives of their sons and daughters for the idea of nation, an idea that they're now being told doesn't exist. For me, what we need to see is an emergence of a different type of populism that transcends the boundaries of left and right. These things are happening organically.
There you go. That's right.
And naturally anyway. And what I think is happening is, perhaps it's odd, isn't it? Because the internet is ultimately a creation of the military. Clearly they didn't accurately understand.
I've been saying that. I remember when Facebook, and then all of a sudden I think it was Intuit that bought Facebook, or don't quote me on the exact company. And then when I looked it up, and this was back in 2009, 2010, right when Facebook was getting popular. And I'm like, oh my God, of course. Like, they don't even need to track you because you put all your information and every step you make on Facebook. And when I told my friends, they were just like, oh my God, and they wouldn't take the time to even look at it. But yeah, everything's weaponized with our tax dollars.
Stand that whilst it was going to be a brilliant means for control, and clearly that's one of the wars that's being fought now, it is also a tool for informing and awakening. And I think that we're at this crux point. Which way is it going to go? Are people going to wake up to the reality that we are being confronted with, or are we going to sort of nervously cling on to the idea that somehow through comfort and panaceas we might hold on to some old life? Increasingly, I think, is over. I watched some of that speech.
Hold on to what old life? Who would want to hold on to debt? Who would want to hold on to losing their children in wars? Who?
In Ottawa or wherever you were, in Edmonton, Canada. And two of the things I thought were important is knowing that you are not God. You are not God. It's not about you. You have to have some purpose in your life. And secondly, people must relearn a connection to their land. Our connection to our lands has been broken. Now, many countries, particularly in a post-colonial world, have complex relationships with their land. Sometimes that is a relationship with a land that had inhabitants prior to our arrival, or the arrival at least of settlers in your country, for example, or in Canada that you were describing, outlining. But we are divorced from nature. We are divorced from our lands. We are divorced from one another. And we are fed such an empty, hollow, vapid, phatic diet of lies.
That's why I grow as much as I can, do as much as I can. And if I can't grow it myself, I only support local farmers. I don't even eat anything that I don't cook myself from scratch. It's not, don't get me wrong. Yes, I do it because I love real good food, because I know what real good food tastes like. Number one. But number two, it's that. These little things. Can you imagine an entire city doing that? How empowering that is? But again, it's just what's easiest, what's more convenient. Well, there you go, honey. There's a price for the convenience.
You said at one point, oh, you should, this is this vast country. You could all have 6 acres each.
Yes.
And I felt like, the crowd responding to that. People are frightened of the people of Britain or the people of America or the people of Canada or Australia or the people all over the world. For surely those farmer protests are happening in Sri Lanka. They're happening in India. They're not just happening in Europe or Anglophonic countries. They're happening everywhere. They're happening everywhere. And I feel that that's precisely the direction we need to return to. Sovereignty of the individual. Sovereignty and sanctity of the connection between people.
We all know that, but not enough people are doing it. Can you imagine if we all did it, just like when they boycott a brand and a bunch of people doing it? It's like, whoa, it really worked. Imagine if we all stopped going to the supermarket, especially the big corps, Walmart, Target. You know what I'm talking about, Starbucks, you name it.
Maximum amount of power in your own life and the lives of your.
I do what I preach. I want to know if they are. I want to know. Does anybody know how they actually live? I want to know. Or do they go to the supermarket? Do they go to Costco? What's going on here? I want to know.
Community and your loved ones. Not this
I want proof.
Transition of power to increasingly centralized forces.
Because don't speak something. And again, if we knew that if they're speakers and they're literally living what they speak, then there's a respect there and there's more trust, obviously. But they just keep talking. Are you doing it? Are you? Maybe he is. Maybe Brussels got his own chickens. I haven't watched him recently. I know he's into like organic and earth stuff, but and he's done a lot of interviews with this woman, something, I forget her, Shiva. I forgot her whole name. But she's a huge advocate about the farmers in India. She's from India. Anyway, and he's been very involved. Again, he was doing tons of interviews with her before he went more on the political side on his podcast. But anyway.
And this infantilization and neutralization and castration of individual and familial power.
Can I ask you a question that you may be able to answer that I've been meditating?
I'll give it a go, Tucker. I'll tell you that.
Well, you're just uniquely positioned to answer it because you've seen both sides. But so the things that the people in charge hate
did you
include
see that
nature.
body
Yes, sir,
language?
because you've seen both sides. But
whoa, what was that? Anyone, what was that?
so the things that the people in charge hate include nature.
Yes.
And
Of course, because when you hate humanity, you hate nature. You hate anything you just hate. You're just a hater. You just hate. And when you're full of hate, that's what you do.
class of people who are most useful to your nation, you describe them. Cops, firemen.
Oh, not when they have all the money, all the power, all the resources, and they only need a couple hundred. I'm exaggerating. Don't get to me by the number, okay? Maybe a couple million. But you get my point?
Teachers, nurses, all of them were crushed during COVID, by the way.
Oh, they got their staffs. They got them all aligned. They're building their bunkers, for God's sakes. I'm wondering, like the Zuckerberg, in his bunker, is he already hired a doctor, a top physician? If anything happens to him while he's in the bunker?
Yes.
And farmers. And it's indisputable that if you don't have those people,
Anybody asking these questions? They think just because they have this water filtration, it's a bunker, and if there's nuclear war, which I actually believe they're running from us, they're going to hide from us because shit's going to hit the fan. It's inevitable because they are not in control. How about that for a twist on this story? They're really not in control. They can't handle their shit because all they do is think with hate. So every move they make, in a chess game, they're moving out of hate. It's like karate. When you know karate, you should know that you shouldn't use your anger to fight your opponent. That's actually debilitating. We all know that, right? We've seen enough karate movies. Okay, you get me. You get where I'm going.
Don't have a society. You could get rid of every think tank and every sociology department and every liberal arts university and probably be okay. Get rid of your farmers, you starve to death. So it's not obvious why.
Really? You think they're going to starve to death? The so-called self-proclaimed elite, which are literally the biggest losers in history. Okay? These self-proclaimed, narcissistic, hateful, literally demonic people. So they're not for happiness. They are bloodthirsty. They love all that is negative, all that most of us don't thrive on. This group, that's how they hook up. Birds of a feather flock together.
The leadership of a country would hate the very people they need most and hate the most beautiful and valuable thing they have, which is nature.
If they didn't, okay. So do you think that these so-called leaders have a death wish on themselves? That they want to die? Why would they be building bunkers? Do you see what I mean? Like, come on. I wish I was sitting at that table with these guys.
Nature. Why do they hate those things?
You know why, Tucker. You've already said in certain interviews in the last few weeks about how you know these people are evil. Hello.
It terrifies me to contemplate, Tucker, that people like Alex Jones and in our country, David Icke.
That name had to pop in.
People like Alex Jones and in our country, David Icke, who, aside from some views that are impossible to corroborate around quite occultist and
Did you guys see? I lost a connection. Oh, I wonder why. Never happens like that. You see what I mean? They're watching, they're listening, but they're going to pretend that I don't exist. Okay. I apologize for that, guys. I had nothing to do with it. My power didn't go out. Everything's fine over here. And I just had this feeling to check if the stream was still going. And there we go. So, interesting. So, there we go.
Alex Jones and in our country, David Icke, who, aside from some views
oh shit!
are impossible to corroborate.
See, now they got me all discombobulated where I'm sharing the wrong page. Ay, ay, ay. Where am I? Forgive me, guys. Thank you for your love and patience. Much love. There we go.
It terrifies me to contemplate, Tucker, that people like Alex Jones and in our country, David Icke, who, aside from some views that are impossible to corroborate around quite occultist and, shall we call them, marginal ideas, difficult to corroborate ideas, when it comes to the subject of globalization and the increasing authoritarianization of our planet, appear to have been ahead of the curve. You can see them 20, 30 years ago saying with the empowerment of NATO, the empowerment of world banks and the WHO, like this is extraordinary. And it seems to me that the disempowerment of ordinary people, the condemnation, the demoralization of the public to create people that just are weary and broken.
Been happening for a long time.
If not enslaved,
not
then
new.
so dependent it amounts to a form of slavery, cannot be inadvertent. It seems to be a denial of something fundamental that in my language, I would call spirit. The right to be who you are. that there isn't something fundamentally ugly or wrong with you, that you are allowed to be who you are. And I see that as a universal principle that will be applied all the way from the left to the right across various ways that people claim their individual identity now. It seems to me that, yes, that if you start to attack those pivotal infrastructural roles, I was struck when speaking to some of the people that you work with, man, that, you know, that's been a cop for 26 years in New Jersey, 35 years in the security services. Like, these are people that give their lives for a country. So to tell those people that your country doesn't mean anything, or to alter the meaning of what a nation is, or alter what your contribution has been, it seems to be about a kind of disorientation. And it's difficult, actually, sometimes. The reason I mentioned at the beginning of this rather caroming answer figures that are broadly condemned as conspiracy theorists, but then aren't we all these days? It seems the reason I mention them is because they talk specifically about ideas to do with spirituality, morality, and ethics. And it's hard for someone like me to consider that the goals of this global establishment are anything other than power, finance, dominion. But when you talk about this loathing of nature, whether that's human nature or botany or the great expanse, it's difficult to think that there isn't something dark at its core.
Oh, now, okay. Okay, it just took them almost the end of the interview to get to my point. Okay, this
dark.
Yes!
At its core.
Because there's no rational explanation for that. How could you want to despoil nature? How could you hate human nature? How could you?
This is the highlight of the interview for me.
You want to hurt people? Those are not rational responses to anything. I mean, there's got to be. I mean, clearly, what we're watching are the fruits of spiritual war. If you can think of a better
100%, 100%, 100%, 100%.
explanation, let me know.
Certainly the solution seems to me to be spiritual. And even when they're talking...
Absolutely. Here's that choice, ladies and gentlemen. Here's that choice. I told you. Because I love you.
About ecology and evoking words like Gaia, like the spirit of the planet, it seems oddly utilitarian. The earth...
Gaia, which we used to call him Mother Earth. Mother, nurturing, loving, sweet. So many ways to describe Mother Earth.
Is a resource, even when claiming to care about the types of energy industry that might be most beneficial and those which might not be as beneficial. I don't see reverence. I don't see an acknowledgement of the sacredness of the earth. That the earth is not a resource. It's not, you know, obviously the left and right are classically almost at this point.
Well, if you hate Mother Earth, and you hate everything on it, yes, that's what you do. When you hate something, you just want it gone. Especially if you know your days are counted, you know you're not gonna live forever. It doesn't matter if you think Neuralink and you know your boyfriend, you know your BFF, your little god Elon Musk, and no, never will they ever have the technology they claim that will come. It will, if anything, it will destroy them before they can get their psychotic dreams.
Divided around the subject of climate change. And what I feel is who among us ought not love our planet and behave respectfully and reverentially and lovingly to our planet? And how is that going to happen if no one has a relationship with it? I think like 90% of, in my country, 90% of the land is inaccessible to most people. 90% of the land is privately owned. Like land that used to be commonly held is now all privately owned. There has been successive law after successive law that has moved power and control and the land and nature herself into the hands of an elite. And it's this, I suppose, even where it would have been risible.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, they should know. They're so smart. Stop calling them the elites.
Feudalism.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
That, I suppose, even where it would have been risible.
So you're getting back to feudalism.
Yeah,
what you're saying.
Let's get back to good old feudalism. What was wrong with feudalism? Why are we making such a fuss about it? It's like the idea that you and I are people that operate on different sides of a political spectrum becomes exposed as ridiculous when the anti-authoritarian aspect of what we both clearly believe in has to become the clear and pivotal point around which all political views have to now start to coalesce. You are either going to oppose what's happening when it comes to globalization and centralized authoritarianism, or you are going to be crushed by it individually and collectively.
How do you see, and I'll stop with this compound question. How are your family and friends holding up in the face of this assault on you and your family? And how do you see this playing out, the battle that you just described? Are you hopeful or no?
You know, like, because I've been...
If he's spiritual, he is. So let's see what he says. Because he claims it's all about spirit, right? That's where he's been gravitating for years now.
To personal attacks, it's very one thing. Like, I have a program of recovery. I've been in recovery for 21 years. It's just, in a sense, it's what enshrines and helps me practice my relationship with God. It's the most important thing to me. The thing I have to most be observant of and have to keenly avoid is descent into self-centeredness. When I am very frightened, it's very easy for me to drift into becoming quite myopic and insular. What I've observed, like in this period, from a personal perspective, is that like, I'm incredibly fortunate. I've got an amazing wife. I've got amazing, beautiful children that are healthy and doing well. I've got incredible people that I work with. Like, oh my God. And another thing that's been amazing is, like, for a month, publicly, continually, I was, like, called the worst names you can call a man. And then I'd go out in public and people were like, Russell, hey, we support you. And like one time I was away in, like, sort of like a family with all their daughters that were aged between, like, sort of 15 and 19. Oh, can you do photos of us? I was thinking, if there were one group that would be negatively affected by what's just been publicly said about me, it would be the parents of teenage kids. And, like, people aren't buying it. People aren't buying it.
That's so good. Oh, what a great way to wrap this interview.
That's the problem. Yeah. People are waking up. People start to think, well, Jesus, is there going to be a better example than your former and perhaps future president? The more they hate him, the more people like him. Yes. The more people like him, because what they know is they don't trust the establishment anymore. They cannot trust the establishment anymore. Well, speaking from the perspective of, look, this isn't the first time I've known personal crisis. I'm a drug addict in recovery. I'm a product of a single parent family. I'm a normal person from a normal background. But what I would say is that, in a sense, a crisis becomes an invitation. A catastrophe is an invitation. And it seems like, whether you're on the left or right, everyone believes catastrophe is coming, and it will be an invitation. It will be an invitation, because if what we're being offered is a slow grind into endless war and more authoritarianism and more control of our personal lives and our ability to worship, our ability to affiliate, our ability to pray, if what we're being invited to accept is the colonization of the self, of our ability to think freely, then what have we got to lose when all they're offering us is more war, endless pandemics that are being legislatively enshrined even now through the WHO treaty? What have we actually got to lose? I think, in a sense, that perhaps they are, if there is one God, one all-powerful God, then surely that God is at work now, and surely that God is creating the perfect conditions for our mutual awakening. And perhaps what's required is the spur, the ignition of something so unbearable that people will awaken rather than...
Hello! Did I not already say that? Wait for the starvation, ladies and gentlemen.
Enduring rather than...
And this is not me igniting fear. This is very powerful. I'm ready. No fear whatsoever. Nope. Because I'm not going to lose my shit when it happens. Because I'm ready. Do you see what I mean? It's not about installing fear.
Endure it any further. And perhaps that's what we're being offered now. Yes, if
God is good. God has planned the whole thing out. Not if there's a God, there is a creator. Period in the story. And there's no way they can create something as wonderful as you and me and not have it all planned out.
Of course, it seems like we're on the precipice of catastrophe geopolitically and from various potential health pandemics, but also it seems to me like a potential offering to awaken. And I don't think we have any choice other than to see it that way.
Russell Brand, you have not been broken. You are at your very best. Your very best. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
And I appreciate you guys being here with me watching this, because I could have watched it by myself, but I said, let me watch it with my peeps, with my online family. Hope you enjoyed that. I got a lot to say, but I'm going to stop. Okay, I need to break myself. Matter of fact, I got to go to, you know what I mean? I got to go to the loo, the John. take Tinker to the Tinkerbell. I know. This is how I'm so corny. I can be so serious, but a little corny. But I have to go. As I said, I got some construction stuff going on, and I have to do the Tinker. And I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here with me. Again, whatever second thoughts you're having, make sure to leave me a comment. I will read it. I will respond. Thank you for all your love and support. At the very least, smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Even if it's just to help good people. Yes, you don't have to like me to know that we're good. Because when you're good, you know another good person. Welcome, everyone. And again, Dale, Rose, great to see you. I'm just looking real quick. See who else maybe I had missed from the beginning of the stream. Sean Henry, hello. Great to see you. Hope all is well. You know, nothing but love, Carrie Lewis. Great to see you too. And I feel you. Hey, yeah, my schedule's been crazy. So when I don't see you for a while, I just hope you come back and you just, all of you ignite me. Until next time, I got some good reactions coming at you this week. Stay tuned. Make sure to smash that like button. More importantly, click the notification bell, okay? Because I can't really stick to a schedule. This way we don't miss each other. Much love. Many blessings. And I'll talk to you soon.